All right, well, turn with me in your Bibles to John chapter 2. That's John chapter 2, fourth gospel, fourth book in the New Testament. Joe had been waiting a long time for his wedding day. He had been admiring Anna from afar for a while. Eventually, he worked up the courage to actually go over and say hi and get to know her. Over time, he got so smitten with her, he started doing all those cute little things that we do, where he was like leaving little gifts on her front doorstep, and then he'd go off and kind of hide and just sort of watch and wait for her to come to the door and see the gift. And man, he just lived to see those dimples come out. He loved her smile. And as they got to know each other better, they fell in love more and more, until the day when he finally asked for her hand in marriage. And not only did she say yes, but her father approved as well. And as time went on, he eventually had told everyone, told the father, told her, told everyone that he was ready, which in their day meant a lot more than it means now. To be ready in their day, in their culture, it meant that he was financially stable. It meant that he was a provider. It meant that he was responsible. It meant so much. And so he told everyone, I'm ready. Let's plan this thing. And so the great day of the wedding came. Parties ensued, and then tragedy struck. You see, in their day, in their time, and in their culture, weddings weren't just a special day. Their wedding feasts and their wedding celebrations could last a week. And all of the preparations were the financial responsibility of the groom, not the father of the bride. So that special day came. And there's still jokes ringing in the air and laughter all across the room when Aunt Mary comes over and whispers in Joe's ear, "Where's the rest of the wine? We're all out." At that moment, she watched as his smile turned into dry mouth, and as tears of joy on his face began to be surrounded by beads of sweat. She knew, based on the look on his face, there was no more wine. Now, you might think, okay, no big deal. It's just a party foul. He just needs to go to Bevmo or Walmart and get a couple boxes of wine, and we're all good. But Joe had spent basically every dime he had on the festivities already. He didn't have anything. Then you might say, okay, well, let's keep problem solving. We'll just grab that, San Francisco 49ers hat off of that dude that shouldn't be wearing it at the wedding anyway, and we'll just pass it around, and everybody can drop their 1s or 5s or 10s, and we'll just do a collection, and we'll get some wine. It's no big deal. But again, we're not putting ourselves in the shoes of Joe. We're not putting ourselves in the shoes of a man who has told everyone that he's ready to be that provider. He's ready to take Anna home with him, to make a family, to provide for a whole family. He has made certain statements about himself, misrepresenting himself. Now, I don't think Joe's a bad guy, but he had misrepresented himself. He probably just did the numbers wrong. Maybe he didn't realize how many people there would be. Maybe he didn't realize what it would cost him. And so tragedy and crisis struck. So what would you do? What should Joe do? If the story sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you've heard it somewhere else. In John chapter 2. I know, you're shocked. Now, in John chapter 2, we don't have the groom's perspective. In fact, we don't even have the groom named. I called him Joe. But we do have Jesus Christ's perspective, which is a pretty interesting one. So let's read it. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." Now, most people are theorizing that she was family Mary was family to the groom, partly because she takes responsibility when the problem arises, and partly because it says that Jesus was invited, but it just says Mary was there. She's just there. Well, she was probably family. And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Smart woman. Smart woman. Now there were 6 stone jars there for Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to his servants, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them to the brim. And he said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. When the master of the feast tasted the water, now become wine, and did not know where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast said to the bridegroom, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine till now." This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory. And his disciples believed in him. Now, I could go into all kinds of stuff about how we deal with problems and how we address problems in our lives. And I would love to do that, but I want to really hone in and focus on one real point here. I love the fact that Jesus deals with the immediate crisis, the immediate need. And he does it to such a degree that is overflowing in generosity. I mean, this had to have been about 120 gallons of top quality wine. We're talking about the kind of, like, you get the clerk to come over and unlock the thingy, and you open the glass, and you grab that $300 bottle of wine. Like, we're talking about the good stuff. 120 gallons, way more than was needed just to get through the feast. I mean, Jesus was compassionate, generous, gracious toward a man who failed. He failed to prepare. But there's something so much more significant going on, so much more deep, that I want to focus on this. You see, when we get to John chapter 6, Jesus says that the people have been basically worshiping the sign rather than what the sign points to. John gives us a list of signs of Jesus, and all of them point to the fact that he is God. He is God in the flesh. But people were so consumed with the signs of this that they didn't see what the signs pointed to. So imagine with me a young couple that has been thinking about fostering or adopting, and they just have this real burden on their hearts to see children without parents have parents. And they're driving down the road, and they see a sign that says, Koinonia Training Class. And they say, "Oh man, how interesting. I mean, isn't that a picture so sweet? All these kids of different ethnicities hanging out and holding a sign together, and they're all wearing different colored shirts and stuff. And I like how they did the layout on this sign. And they got like the whole logo down there, and all the kids, like, they have things in common, but there are things that are different. And it's just a really well-made sign. It's ridiculous, right? Okay, maybe it's a good sign. But for a couple that has had a burning desire on their hearts to be parents for children who do not have parents, and maybe their sole reason for hitting the pause button on that God-given desire and calling is the fact that they feel so ill-equipped. They just feel like they do not have the tools that they need to succeed in such a difficult calling. And now here they see this sign, Koinonia, training class. And all they do is obsess over the cute kids in the picture and the font that was used. They analyze the marketing and they miss the point. I mean, it seems crazy, right? That seems like laughable. And yet Jesus rebuked the people because that was exactly what they were doing. And there was a message that was being communicated through his life that was so much more important than any sign that your eyes have ever seen. God has come. The Messiah has come. Now, each one of the signs in the Gospel of John, they point to the divinity, the divine nature of Christ, but they also point to something deeper and something that goes with it. Not deeper, that's the wrong word, but something that goes with it, like a secondary message. So Jesus feeds the 5,000, and there's a secondary message that's wrapped up in that goes along with his divine nature. And in this story, what we see is that the sign and the depth of the sign is found in the source of the water. These water basins, you just imagine these big bowls where gallons and gallons of water are held and for the ceremonial washing and cleansing. All the Jews would have known that this is what is so vital to our existence as Jews. Because long ago it was written in the book of Leviticus that man and women cannot enter into the presence of God unclean. And so they have these processes whereby when they become unclean, they have a process to become clean again. But there was always this yo-yo effect where they're clean and they're unclean and they're clean and they're unclean. You make a little mistake and you're unclean. And then you go through the process and you remedy the problem, but it's over and over, this cyclical process. But then Jesus flips the whole thing. When he turns water into wine, he changes the equation. No longer does he simply say, there's a process by which you can get clean on Tuesday. You might be dirty again on Wednesday, but there's a process by which you can be clean on Thursday. No. He says there is a way that you can be clean forever. And we celebrate this with the Lord's Supper. We celebrate it because Jesus said, my body is true bread, and my blood is true drink. And unless you eat my body and drink my blood, you have no part of me. Now, when we take all these references that Christ has made and we include them into the understanding of this story, we see that Jesus takes a temporary solution to a temporary problem and creates an eternal solution to an eternal problem. So that Jesus says, when you drink of me, it's like, why don't we take communion? And when that juice comes to us, or that wine, or whatever, why don't we just pour it on our head? And why don't we take that cracker and put it on our arm, and then the next time we take communion, we take that cracker and we put it on our arm, we get something sticky and make it stick, so that eventually we got enough little crackers all over us to where we kind of look like Jesus. Because Jesus was never trying to become a facade that covered the real version of us. No, he was true medicine that had come to enter into us and reveal the true people that he had made us to be, and to usher us eternally into the presence of God. This is the message of water become wine. So today, whether you are here and you have never had a relationship with Jesus Christ, or if you are here and you have had a relationship with him for decades, the message is clear. Allow him to be the means by which you enter into the presence of God. Allow him to be the means by which you bring your hurts and your pains and your depression and your loss and your grieving, your tears and your failure. Bring all of that into the presence of God. See, Jesus is the means. He's the power by which this Bible makes sense and is actually relevant in our lives. He's the power by which our prayers actually make it to the ears of God. He is the power. And that's what being clean is all about. He has made us clean so that we may enter into the presence of God through prayer, through his book. This is the offer of Jesus Christ, and I'm asking you today, will you accept his offer, his invitation into God's presence, and allow him to be that source of making you clean? Some of you in this room came in here this morning knowing that you were not clean. You might have even used those exact words. So I'm asking you today to believe that he can and will make you clean. And for those of you who would say that you've been in a relationship with Jesus Christ, I'm asking you to believe that he has made you clean. So don't own those mistakes anymore. Believe that he has made you clean. Dear Lord, I thank you for your word and what it does to our souls as it undoes us. I thank you for the way that you have undone me. I pray this in your beautiful and holy name.